Hello and welcome to Afterlife Topics and Metaphysics. This is Cyrus coming at you with a quick video tonight. Hopefully will be of some help to people watching, maybe a little bit of inspiration, motivation, or just a philosophical thing that you can ruminate about. Real quick, as an update to my health. So this is the 28th day since I first began having symptoms of the virus that shall not be named, and this thing just keeps resurrecting itself. And I've been hearing about other people having similar issues. Today came down with a tiny smorgasbord of similar symptoms, nothing crazy, but like a minor level of a little bit of everything, including a little bit of chest pain, shortness of breath, the whole thing. And this was after a few days of feeling like I was completely out of the woods. So I'm not completely out of the woods. This thing just hangs out in your body, waits until you're not looking, then comes back and bites you. And fortunately, I'm okay, but it's very frustrating, a little bit demoralizing. But I figure I'm gonna get more sunlight, drink more lemon juice and hot water, try more of these kind of antiviral tea recipes people keep sending me, using like cloves and garlic and lemon and ginger and things like that. And I'm just gonna keep at it and figure that eventually this thing will go away. It almost reminds me, like I've never had mononucleosis, but it's kind of like that, right? One of those viruses that just hangs out in your body. Aside from that, to kind of go into the topic of today's topic, I want to talk about your relationship to mortality and how this fits into the big picture of life beyond the grave that we talk about on this channel, and as well as the nature of who you are, the soul existence, and all of that, and how a very important litmus test for how well you're able to live this life is very much your reaction to the subject of mortality. Now, this is a small channel. This channel grows like a snail. Not many people want to hear about these things, but that's kind of how it is statistically. Very few people are willing to bridge that gap and look these topics in the face. So the relatively small number of subscribers on this channel is reflective of that. I sometimes joke that if this was a channel with scary paranormal stuff about ghosts and things that go bump in the night, it'd probably be 10 times bigger than it is right now. But that's not my bag. I'm here to talk about the real stuff and cut through a lot of that BS, but also show how some of that, that kind of stuff ties in to the big picture. I will say that hopefully I can get through this video without triggering the YouTube algorithm censors, which probably are not going to like me talking about a topic that, the D word. I'm not even going to say it. But we'll see if I can get through this and not get my video blacklisted. All right. And by the way, real quick, you are watching Afterlife Topics. If you like this kind of stuff, if you like the work we do here, I encourage you to please go down and hit that subscribe button, like the video, and share the video if you think that this will be important for other people to hear about as well. All right. So, what came to my mind recently is because of the global apocalypse that's happening. It is an apocalypse. Maybe it's not the apocalypse, but it certainly is a mini apocalypse that has turned everybody's lives upside down, and it has messed with some of the most basic fundamental things in life that we took for granted before, whether that is mobility of travel, or how about having a job, right? Or a number of other things, such as, our abilities to freely, interact with other people that we see, to not have to have a 6-foot distance or whatever it is right now. And I think everybody is eager to get back to their old way of life. But it's also done something unprecedented, which is it's forced everybody indoors thinking about the D word, about crossing over, or, in the minds of most people, because I still think a majority of people are materialists. In the minds of them, it gets them thinking about concept of non-existence, which is a very, very weird thing to comprehend. And I knew from an early age that non-existence just didn't make a lot of sense on a gut level. How can non-existence even happen? It's mathematically impossible. Whatever it is that is you would never be aware of the state of non-existence, and therefore non-existence is impossible to exist. Yet even back then I had adults trying to tell me that this is the penultimate fate of all things and all people. But I knew there was something bogus about that. I knew it was kind of fake news back then. And obviously, once going into this line of research, then it became even more apparent that we've all been fed a bunch of lies about the subject. So that leads me to this topic of mortality. So everyone is at home thinking about their own mortality. And I had a small epiphany, which is that anytime you look at the news now, and whether it's local news or mainstream news or independent news, you will see some story about somebody passing away because of the plague. And these stories, it's not just this, but it could be anything. When we read about it, we have different reactions, right? So the question is what is the reaction that you have when you hear about somebody passing away? When you hear that someone got to get better at the euphemisms. When somebody has just crossed over, transitioned, left the mortal coil, what is your reaction? Because for most people, it is a sense of dread. It's like looking at a mirror. So we see somebody, whether it's from the virus or maybe it's from something else, like maybe it's just anything, a celebrity passes away. I remember I was really upset because there was this actor from those pretty terrible J.J. Abrams Star Trek films. You remember those? And one of the guys, I forget, I think it was the guy who played the doctor guy. I don't remember who it was. I remember his face. Anyway, he had a very, very tragic accident where like a car that was supposed to be parked wasn't in, it didn't have the brake on, and it just rolled over him and took his life. And this was in Los Angeles, not too far from where I was living, and I was just like ruminating on that for a while, because it's just amazing how anything like that can happen to any of us. And this is still me coming from an angle as somebody into afterlife research, and even still that would bother me. For most people, I think it bothers most people even more when we hear about people crossing over, because we all know that we're on the same boat, okay? We're on that train. It's going to get to its destination, and that's going to be us. Maybe we won't be on the news when it happens, but we'll probably be on social media. Same thing when we're on social media and we hear about somebody passing away. You get that gut-wrenching sensation because you're forced to look at yourself. You're forced to look at what's going to happen to you. It brings you, in direct eye contact with this inevitability, with mortality. And most people, we face off with that, and it causes us anxiety. That anxiety causes us to do different things. Sometimes we close the window, or if we're in a conversation, we hear about somebody who passed away, we change the topic. So that's kind of the avoidance mechanism. Then we also have the denial mechanism. This is when we try to justify that somebody passed away. For example, this actor from that Star Trek flick, he was too stupid for walking around, not checking where he was going, and allowing a car to roll down a hill and take his life. Obviously, that's nonsense. But some people, they react this way. They justify why it happens. Like, well, that's not going to happen to me because I am way smarter than to allow, some kind of accident or disease or anything else to go wrong. And besides, I put Karen's lavender oil from her astrology shop all over my body, so I'm not going to get cancer because I do all this new agey stuff, and so I'm safe from that. That's a whole other topic. To people who think that they can law of attraction their way out of mortality, that's a funny one too. When people talk about, well, I'm just going to change my reality to what I want, and then I'll live forever. It's well, good luck with that. So that's another way that people go through this denial mechanism, right? There's also a anger mechanism or a hostility mechanism. Lash out, fight it, get upset, get angry about what happened. I think most people kind of go into the avoidance and then they just ignore it and go about their day. And sometimes even when it's a close family member or loved one, they like just pretend it didn't happen or it wasn't real, and then they distract themselves with alcohol and pop culture and things like that. So the question I have for you watching this, the 13 people watching this, I'm kidding, there's more than that. But the question for some of you guys out there who watch this channel and who like this stuff, or read my books, whatever it is, what reaction do you get when you are confronted by the issue of mortality? Do you have a gut level anxiety? Do you go through one of those other reaction points, anger, denial, avoidance? How is it that you react, and what is the best way to react? So I'm going to finally postulate what I think we should all strive to achieve, in which I'm not there yet. I think most people are not there yet. But if we can really make the afterlife subject mainstream, and up on the window is the Afterlife Topics website, and just as an example, up here I have debunker arguments destroyed on this page. I have a whole list of scientific journals that have reported on non-materiality. My book that talks about my personal experiences on the other side, and many more experiences, as well as my first book. Just some of this content I've created, but there is an endless amount of content out there. So from my vantage point, I think that the best reaction is, imagine moving into a positive reaction. Imagine being able to hear about the stats of someone passing away and being able to know unequivocally that not only are they not in some non-existence, but they're not victim to like a kind of metaphysical non-existence. It's the stuff I talk about here, like the non-afterlife, the idea that you cross over and you become formless, in a way you're no longer who and what you once were, all-knowing, omniscient, or one with the universe, or you've merged with source consciousness, or some of these buzzwords that we hear a lot, which isn't really an afterlife. It means the destruction of the soul essence. And it has nothing to do with the ego or anything like that. Beyond the ego, we have like a soul essence. Some of these religions and some of these belief systems basically say that the soul essence itself disappears. And so that's the other thing to kind of struggle against, right? And so I think that the people who believe those ideas, they end up with the same kind of anxiety as the atheist materialist, because it's the same. It's like, yes, okay, this higher element of yourself goes on, but like it's impossible to comprehend what that is, and there's no clear answers, and it seems like who and what you were, your identity is erased. Now, if we jump into the objective evidence for an afterlife, which is also very well illustrated by the interview with Mark Pitstick about 3 interviews back, talking about the objective laboratory scientific evidence of communication with deceased individuals, as he calls them, post-material people, which, by the way, has been going on ever since I was a freshman at the University of Arizona many moons ago. Then we can get the objective evidence, the objective information that the people who cross over are still themselves. They still have the memories of who they once were. They can be quizzed on, is a giraffe an animal? And they'll respond yes. They recognize themselves. They're trying to help us. And then you coincide that with, for example, astral projection trips, and you get glimpses into that side and find out that it is a higher dimensional version of our world, but it's not like something that's beyond our comprehension. It's a neighboring existence, if you will. And so imagine if there was full knowledge of that, at least even in your own life. If you could have those experiences to prove that, then when you look at someone's statistic that someone passed away, and instead of being filled with that anxiety, imagine if you could be filled with a kind of this is literally something I hear from people who have had advanced NDEs. They actually say that they hear about some celebrity who passes away, and then instead of feeling sadness or just that anxiety or that gut-wrenching feeling, they feel like a little bit of envy because they know that they have accomplished something really great. Now, because it wouldn't be a video like this if I don't make some geeky reference, there was a great episode, I think it was the first season of Star Trek The Next Generation, and I think it was Riker that they believed had passed away. or maybe it was somebody else. I can't remember the whole plot line. But anyway, you had Worf. Worf is the Klingon from a tribal warrior planet, and everybody was grieving this guy who they thought had passed away. And then they ask Worf, I think Picard asks Worf why he didn't feel upset, and Worf was like, well, I don't feel grief about this because I actually envy what Commander Riker has experienced, because he has made the transition to the great beyond. So I thought that was that kind of like resonated with me, like when I watched that episode as a kid, because it was a very, it was like taking the point of mortality from like a warrior class, like that in a way celebrates someone's passing. And I thought that was interesting, but also very telling that those people who come from like deep spiritual cultures, they may not see mortality the way that we do here, especially in the West. And even when I live in Asia, I see a little bit of hints of the old mystical cultures coming through, as mortality stings, but not as bad in some of these old world countries I go to. But that's another topic for another video. I've had very interesting experiences traveling even in places like Indonesia, learning about village, communal, afterlife related things that they do, including even physical mediumship and very surprising topics like that are actually built into those cultures. Like it's an anthropological look at the subject. Well, anyway, I think that's it for this video. Thank you guys for watching. Let me know what you think in the comments down below, and what is your opinions about mortality when you come face to face with it. And let me know down below. All right. Well, this is Cyrus. You can check out books like The Afterlife and Beyond, or Understanding Life After Death, or become a patron at patreon.com/afterlife topics if you want to help support my message and what I'm doing and my work. All right. This is Cyrus. I'll catch you guys on the next video.